But what if my intrusive thoughts are dangerous? This is the question someone asked after I published a video teaching a skill called cognitive defusion. This is an important skill for dealing with intrusive thoughts. You take these annoying, repetitive, unhelpful thoughts, and you just create a little space between you and your brain. You can thank your brain for the thought or just say, oh, there's my word machine, making words again. Now, that's a great strategy, Emma. Good job. But what if those thoughts are so threatening that you can't ignore them? Like, what if my thoughts tell me that I might hurt myself or someone else, or I might assault someone? I mean, sure, this person says, maybe I could ignore a thought that says I'm a bad person, but I can't ignore the thought that says, what if someone comes in the kitchen while I'm making dinner and I stab them with this knife? Okay. I think a lot of people wonder this, especially people with OCD. What if my thoughts are different? What if mine are actually dangerous? So in this video, you're going to learn how to handle intrusive and unwanted thoughts that feel really dangerous. Okay, so you might ask, what if I keep thinking about hurting someone? Or does this thought mean that I'm a danger to others? Okay, first off, if you're having these kinds of intrusive or unwanted thoughts, I want you to take a deep breath. Having a scary thought doesn't mean that you're dangerous. It just means that you have a brain. There are a ton of research studies with average people that have shown over and over again that most people have intrusive, unwanted thoughts. And by most people, I mean around 94% of people experience intrusive thoughts at some point in their lives. These thoughts are usually unwanted and distressing, and they often go against a person's values or beliefs. Common intrusive thoughts range from violent or aggressive thoughts to sexual or blasphemous or just bizarre ideas. Okay, so intrusive thoughts just mean that you have a brain. And that brain, it's designed to throw out all sorts of random, weird, and even horrifying thoughts your way. Not because they're true, but because they're connected to what you value most. There's a key to understanding why intrusive thoughts feel so scary. Intrusive thoughts tend to latch onto what matters most to you. If I had an intrusive thought that's like, what if I'm wearing orange pants? That thought wouldn't feel very scary to me, and I would just brush it off. But if I had a thought like, oh, what if I hurt my baby? What if I drop my baby? That thought is going to feel much scarier because it's about something super important to me. If you value kindness, you might get intrusive thoughts about harming others. If you love your partner, you might get intrusive thoughts about messing up your relationship. If you value being a good parent, you might have horrifying thoughts about hurting your child. Your brain isn't giving you these thoughts because they're true or because they mean something about you. It's because your brain is built to scan for danger and protect what you care about. You might have 100 thoughts, but the thoughts that go against your values, the thoughts that target the things you really care about, these thoughts feel extra sticky. They feel extra scary. And then your brain might create some meaning and say, oh, what does this mean about me? But thoughts aren't evidence that you're a bad person. A thought is just a thought. Now, I talked about this with my good friend and OCD expert, Dr. Kat Green. Here's what she has to say.
Intrusive thoughts have this quality of increased thought-action fusion. So the idea that if I think it, it makes it more likely to happen. It makes it more real. So this is why these thoughts like, what if I hurt someone? What if I jump in front of a bus? What if I drive off this bridge? What if, like, all of those thoughts feel, number one, they feel scary.
Yeah.
But then kind of this concept of thought-action fusion, those sticky thoughts, intrusive thoughts, tend to seem, they carry some of this extra power that if I think it, it makes it more likely that it will happen. If I say it, oh my gosh, I'm just asking for it. Mm-hmm. And it's a really sneaky, effective way for thoughts to stick around. Yeah. Because if they can stay so scary that you can't see it, say it, do it, even think about it, I mean, they're just going to kick around, right? They're like, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep coming back because I'm so scary you can't even approach me.
So yes, intrusive thoughts feel dangerous, but you're going to learn that just because you think something doesn't mean you're going to act on it. The thought itself feels scary, but it isn't dangerous. Okay, don't believe me? Stay with me for a minute. First, let's clear up one of the biggest fears. What's the difference between an intrusive thought about hurting someone and a real desire to hurt someone? Intrusive thoughts are unwanted. You don't want these thoughts, and they usually come with a lot of anxiety and distress. They are ego dystonic. So this means the thought goes against your values and who you are as a person. You might think, I would never want to hurt someone, which is why the thought feels so alarming. And third, they generally elicit a reaction. So you try to push the thought away, you try to avoid it, or you try to check or scan to make sure it's not true. Now, a real desire to hurt someone is completely different. It usually looks like wanting. So there's a desire or an intention behind the thought. For example, I would love to punch my boss in the face. The thought doesn't cause distress. It might even feel satisfying to think about. And there's some planning. There's a focus on how to carry out these harmful actions rather than fear or avoidance of those thoughts. The very fact that you're worried about intrusive thoughts is pretty strong evidence that they are actually intrusive thoughts, not real desires. You're afraid because these thoughts violate your values, not because they reflect them. Now, there's something I do want to be super clear on. Intrusive thoughts can feel extra sticky when you have OCD. So here's what that might look like. Someone with OCD might look at this list and start evaluating their thoughts. Maybe they've had a thought like, oh my gosh, what if I stab my husband while chopping vegetables? Then they would feel kind of terrified of this thought. They don't want to stab their husband. They're terrified that they might. And then they think, oh, phew, this means this is an intrusive thought. But then OCD says, but what if it's not? Like, OCD can make it feel very hard to feel certain, and it can take you down the rabbit hole of what if forever. So OCD will never let you solve this question through logic. So it might bring up thoughts like, oh, what if I'm the exception? What if this time my intrusive thought really comes true, right? OCD is literally a brain difference where people never feel 100% certain, so they keep doing safety behaviors to try to magically prevent bad things from happening. Here's what Dr. Green has to say about that.
So I like to put that out there because it is just an important kind of fact. But in the cycle of OCD does all sorts of things with that. And it's like, well, maybe you actually do want to have it. You don't even have OCD. You've been making it up. I mean, these are so common. That kind of spirally anxious cycle is a symptom itself.
Okay.
Right?
Here's the other essential thing to know about intrusive thoughts. There's something you're doing that actually makes intrusive thoughts so sticky. So you've probably built up a huge set of habits around your thoughts to keep yourself safe from them.
So, for example, if you're afraid, you have this intrusive thought, what if I drop my baby on purpose, right? I'll see people do a lot of scanning and checking to be like, am I holding them appropriately? Am I far enough from the stairs? So they're checking their body, they're checking their surroundings just to make sure.
Yeah.
And they get that little bit of relief where their brain's like, ooh, that was close. And that feeling of that was close reinforces the whole idea that it was dangerous to begin with.
Dr. Green is explaining something called safety behaviors. If we take a look at the anxiety cycle, you'll see that when we avoid something that feels scary, we feel a sense of relief. And that relief tells our brain, phew, I survived. Good thing I avoided that dangerous thing. And then your brain thinks, whew, I kept us safe. I better make my human do that again. And then the brain increases our anxiety around that thing. So now that intrusive thought feels scarier and scarier. Whenever we do something to avoid a scary thought, like, oh, I'm not cutting vegetables anymore, or I have to hold the knife a very certain way, or I can only cut vegetables when I'm alone in the kitchen. Whenever we do something to avoid a scary thought, that's called a safety behavior. And it's safety behaviors that send the message to your brain that the thought itself is actually dangerous. Common safety behaviors include avoidance, distraction, scanning, like, oh, is that thought back? Am I too close to the stairs? Or checking, am I holding the knife safely? Reassurance seeking, oh, are you sure I won't hurt the baby? And the problem is that safety behaviors keep your brain from learning that the thought isn't dangerous. You can have these thoughts, they might feel uncomfortable, but an intrusive thought doesn't hurt anyone. It's the safety behaviors like taking little actions to control those thoughts that tell your brain, this thought is actually dangerous. So you have a thought, what if I stab my husband while cutting vegetables? And then you think, I have to keep the knife away, or I have to make sure my husband's out of the kitchen when I cut vegetables. And then my husband doesn't get stabbed, and your brain learns through that safety behavior that, phew, the only thing that kept us safe was doing that safety behavior. And that thought must actually be dangerous, right? That's actually what keeps us stuck in OCD or in a cycle with intrusive thoughts. So instead of trying to talk your brain out of these intrusive thoughts, you can show your brain that these thoughts can't actually hurt you. Yes, they can make you feel emotions, but emotions also can't actually hurt you. The way we show our brain that these thoughts aren't dangerous is by approaching them instead of avoiding them. Avoidance fuels intrusive thoughts, and approaching them quiets them. Okay, so you're going to increase your capacity to feel these thoughts and be okay. So now that we understand intrusive thoughts, most people have them. They're not actually dangerous. They don't mean anything about you. And safety behaviors are what's keeping them sticky. What do we do about them? In therapy with a skilled therapist, you would practice ERP, exposure response prevention, where you would intentionally bring up the thought, allow it to be there, and learn through experience that just because you think something doesn't mean you'll act on it. So you have the intrusive thought, what if I stab someone while I'm cutting veggies with this knife? And you've built up all these safety behaviors like not being in the kitchen with someone else, or not holding the knife in a certain way, or not using knives anymore. Here's Dr. Green's approach. You might say,
even saying, I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that's an intrusive thought. So I'm not going to follow right away. So you start introducing delays and listening to it. And then it's essentially, you're saying, how would I want to live this moment if I didn't have this really annoying, bossy part of my brain, threatening destruction all the time. And what you're trying to do is get yourself closer, right? Taking little steps to get closer to the life you want to be living, how you would live that moment if you weren't following all the rules of the specific intrusive thought, right? Where you're like, okay, well, if I wasn't worried about stabbing my partner, I would be in the kitchen. I would turn on music while I worked. I would work with them in the kitchen. And then trying to break down kind of small ways to approach it, even just writing it down. Again, you think about that thought action fusion. Yeah. Writing it down, the exact same sentence over and over and over and over and over and over and over again can actually be really helpful, because at first it seems so scary. Yeah. And then over time you're like, oh, my hand hurts.
You get a little tired of it instead of scared of it.
Maintain the same panic.
And in therapy, your therapist might actually have you work with a knife. Yes, a real knife in the room with them, and practice various settings where you would use the knife, where you would carry the knife, where you would walk around the therapy office with a knife. All while having the thought, what if I hurt someone? Now, pretty soon, you'll get better and better at noticing that you can have the thought without taking any action. And your brain will learn through experience that the thought is just a thought. Your thought is not actually dangerous. Okay, so what do we actually do with these thoughts? When you're not in a therapist's office, I want you to practice this. Step 1, notice the thought. Say, oh, there's that scary thought again. You could say, thanks, brain, you sure are pumping out a lot of thoughts today. And you could remind yourself, this is just a thought. It doesn't mean anything about me. Now, I know you might be thinking, but this thought feels so real. It must mean something. And this is where we bring in a skill from acceptance and commitment therapy. We're going right back to cognitive defusion. Defusion is all about creating space between you and your thoughts so you can see them for what they are. They're just words or images in your mind. They are not truths you have to obey. So you could try this. Instead of saying, what if I hurt someone? You say, I'm having the thought that I might hurt someone. Instead of saying, this thought means I'm dangerous, say, I'm noticing my brain throwing out the thought that I'm dangerous. Can you feel the difference? We're stepping back and noticing the thought instead of fusing with it. And this little shift can help us loosen its grip. Okay, step 2, allow it and delay it. So you want to picture that thought like a radio station playing in the background. You don't have to fight it or even turn it off. You can let that radio play. And then you're going to have an urge to do some kind of avoidance or safety behavior here. You might feel like avoiding holding your child or avoiding cutting vegetables, or you might seek reassurance from your partner. And I want you to just start by delaying that impulse to do that safety behavior. You're going to allow that thought to be there without trying to make it go away. Okay, and then step 3, you're going to get on with your life. The goal here isn't to get rid of the thought. That could take a ton of energy. That could take all your energy. That could take all of your time and stop you from doing the things you really love and care about. So instead, you show your brain through experience that you don't have to react to it. So instead of fighting your thoughts, you've got to shift your attention to the things you actually care about. Now, if you haven't done a values clarification exercise, now might be a good time to do one. I'll link one in the description. But with the values clarification, you might ask, what's most important to you? What leads you to a rich and meaningful life? Is it spending time with you and your family? Is it making art or researching microbiomes? Whatever is more important to you than arguing with your thoughts is your values, right? So we're going to notice the thought, allow it to be there, shift your attention back to what you care about. And over time, as you stop fueling the fire, these thoughts lose their power. They might still pop up, but they won't own you anymore. And that's because you're showing your brain that these thoughts just aren't that important. And then your brain will naturally decrease your anxiety around those thoughts, and they'll start to get quieter. Okay, so instead of trying to figure out why you're having this thought, try asking yourself, what kind of person do I want to be, even with this thought in your head? And then go live your life knowing that your thoughts don't define you, your actions do. You've got this. Oh, by the way, if you would like to learn more, I made a course with Dr. Kat Green. She's an OCD specialist, and the course is all about managing intrusive thoughts. I will make sure to link that in the description. Thank you for watching, and take care. Hi there. If you found anything in this video helpful, I would really appreciate it if you could give it a thumbs up or share it with someone who could benefit from it today.